Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're taking a deep dive into something truly remarkable, a genomic test. And get this, it can diagnose almost any infection you can think of.
It's pretty amazing. It's called mNGS, short for metagenomic next-generation sequencing.
mNGS, got it.
And it's already making waves in the medical world. The power of mNGS comes from its ability to analyze all the DNA and RNA in a patient sample.
So instead of looking for one specific thing,
Exactly. It's not looking for a specific pathogen. Instead, it analyzes everything.
so it's like getting a complete picture of what's happening at the genetic level.
Precisely, like a high-resolution snapshot of all the genetic material in a sample.
And that, I imagine, eliminates a lot of the guesswork that goes into traditional diagnostic methods.
It really does. It cuts out that lengthy guesswork and allows doctors to quickly pinpoint the cause of an infection.
Now, this technology, I understand, was spearheaded by Dr. Charles Chiot at UCSF.
That's right.
And he called it deceptively simple.
Yeah.
But the implications are vast. Do you have any examples of how this test has already had an impact on patients' lives?
Absolutely. There's a compelling story from 2014. A young boy in Wisconsin was critically ill with an undiagnosed infection.
Oh,
Doctors were stumped.
I can
A
imagine.
series of traditional tests all came back negative. They couldn't figure out what was wrong with him.
So what happened?
Well, they decided to try this new mNGS test.
Okay.
And within 48 hours, they had an answer.
Wow.
The test revealed that the boy had leptospirosis.
Leptospirosis.
It's a bacterial infection,
Okay.
and thankfully treatable with penicillin.
Wow, so this test potentially saved his life.
Absolutely. And think about it. It also spared him from potentially weeks or months of more tests and uncertainty.
Oh, definitely.
Mm.
And speaking of situations where time is critical, I understand mNGS has been particularly impactful in diagnosing neurological infections.
You're right. Those are notoriously difficult to pinpoint. Things
Yeah.
like meningitis and encephalitis.
Right.
If those aren't diagnosed and treated quickly,
Every day counts.
every day does count.
So how does mNGS stack up against traditional methods when it comes to diagnosing these really tricky neurological infections?
There was a study out of UCSF published in Nature Medicine,
Okay.
and they found that mNGS could correctly identify 86% of neurological infections.
86%. Wow.
And this was in nearly 5,000 cerebrospinal fluid samples.
That's a lot.
It is. And that success rate is higher than any other diagnostic test out there.
It's really impressive.
It is.
Oh.
When you combine that accuracy with the speed of mNGS, it's a game changer for neurology.
It really is.
Faster diagnoses and hopefully better outcomes for patients.
Absolutely. Now, from what I've read, the potential of mNGS goes way beyond just neurological infections. Researchers have adapted it to work with respiratory samples, too.
You're exactly right. And they've even been able to automate this version of the test.
Oh, wow.
Which means it's even faster. Instead of potentially taking days, results can be ready in under 24 hours.
24 hours. Imagine that.
It's incredible.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
To be able to pinpoint the cause of a respiratory infection that quickly would have a huge impact on treatment decisions and even help to prevent the spread of contagious illnesses.
It really could. A study in Nature Communications showed just how powerful this could be for pandemic preparedness. The automated respiratory mNGS test was able to detect pandemic potential viruses in less than a day.
That's amazing.
And that includes viruses like SARS-CoV-2 influenza A and B and RSV.
And it could detect them even when the viral loads were low.
Yes, even with low viral loads. So this technology is incredibly fast and accurate and adaptable to different sample types.
So it's versatile as well. But what does this all mean for the average person?
Right.
How accessible is this technology right now?
Well, the good news is access to mNGS is increasing.
That's good to hear.
Delve Bio, a company founded by researchers at UCSF, now provides the CSF test. So that's making it more widely available to hospitals and clinics.
That's great news.
It is. And on top of that, both the CSF and respiratory versions of the test have received breakthrough device designation from the FDA.
That's a big deal.
It is. It really highlights their significance and paves the way for faster regulatory review and approval.
It seems like we're truly on the verge of a new era in healthcare,
It does.
where diagnoses are faster, more accurate, and lead to better outcomes for patients.
I think it's definitely a paradigm shift.
It is. And we've only just begun to explore the full potential of mNGS.
Absolutely. What's really fascinating is this goes way beyond just diagnosing infections.
Really?
We're starting to see its potential in things like personalized medicine, even disease surveillance.
That's exciting. So how could mNGS be used in personalized medicine?
Well, just imagine
Right.
being able to analyze a patient's entire genome and microbiome
Wow.
and understand, their individual predispositions to certain diseases
Okay.
or even how they might respond to different treatments.
So it's really taking that idea of personalized healthcare to a whole new level.
It is. It's like moving away from this one-size-fits-all approach
Yeah.
to something that's completely customized for each person.
And you mentioned disease surveillance.
Ye-
What do you mean by that?
Well, think about being able to track the emergence and spread of pathogens in real time,
Okay.
even before they cause major outbreaks.
So we're talking about being able to actually track the genetic evolution of viruses and bacteria.
Exactly.
That sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie.
It does a little bit, doesn't it?
It does.
But by monitoring these changes at the genetic level,
Right.
we could identify emerging threats and develop countermeasures proactively.
Potentially preventing pandemics before they even start.
Exactly.
Now, what about our understanding of the human microbiome?
Oh, that's another area where mNGS could have a huge impact.
So these trillions of microbes that live in and on our bodies.
Exactly. mNGS could really unlock a treasure trove of information about how those microbes interact with our own cells.
And how they impact our health.
Exactly.
And that could lead to breakthroughs in so many areas.
It could. Autoimmune diseases, mental health disorders, even things like obesity and heart disease.
It's amazing to think about all the possibilities.
It really is.
This is a paradigm shift in how we think about healthcare disease prevention, even our understanding of what it means to be human.
It's transformative. And what's even more incredible is that we're just scratching the surface.
Yeah.
New applications and discoveries are emerging all the time.
We really are at the frontier of scientific discovery.
We are, and we have this powerful new tool.
This new lens to view the world of biology and
Of-
medicine.
Exactly. And who knows what we might find.
This has been incredible. Learning about the capabilities of mNGS and its potential impact on so many aspects of healthcare and our understanding of human biology.
It has been a great discussion.
I'm sure our listeners are as fascinated by this technology as we are. But before we wrap up, I want to bring up something that's been on my mind. We've talked a lot about the positive potential of mNGS,
Right.
but it's important to acknowledge that with any powerful technology, there are always considerations about responsible use and implementation.
Absolutely.
So how do we make sure that this power is used for good?
Well, as mNGS becomes more widely adopted, we need to put safeguards in place around data privacy.
Because this technology is revealing very personal genetic information.
Exactly.
And beyond privacy, there's the issue of access.
Yeah.
We don't want this to become a tool that's only available to a select few.
You're right. Equitable access is essential. That means addressing things like cost barriers.
Right.
And making sure that healthcare providers are trained to interpret the complex data.
Because it is complex data.
It is. So
Yeah.
we've got some challenges ahead.
We do.
Yeah.
But I think they're challenges that we can overcome. So for our listener, what would you say is the most important takeaway from our deep dive into mNGS?
I'd say mNGS is an incredibly powerful tool with the potential to do so much good, but like any tool, it all comes down to how we use it.
Right.
We need to have open discussions about these ethical considerations, responsible development, and a focus on making this technology available to everyone.
And this conversation needs to be happening now.
It does. This technology is evolving so rapidly.
It is. It's our responsibility to make sure that this technology reaches its full potential as a force for good.
I completely agree.
This has been an enlightening deep dive into the world of mNGS. We've explored the science, the potential, the challenges.
We have.
And now for the final part of our deep dive. It's really mind-boggling when you think about everything we've discussed. The science behind mNGS, its potential to change healthcare. A lot to take in. I have to admit, I'm feeling a mix of awe and a bit of cautious optimism.
I think that's understandable. It really does feel like we're on the edge of something brand new. So much promise, but also a huge responsibility to use this technology wisely.
Exactly. So let's try to break this down for our listener. We've talked about diagnosing life-threatening infections, personalized medicine, even preventing pandemics. It's almost hard to grasp.
It is a lot. But if we step back for a second, I think what's really remarkable is that mNGS represents a fundamental shift. It's not about targeting specific suspects anymore. It's about understanding the entire ecosystem.
Whether it's the human body or the environment.
Exactly.
Here
It's
we
a
go.
great way to put it.
But with all that information comes complexity. And we touched on the ethical considerations earlier, and that's something I keep coming back to. How can we be sure that this incredible power is used for good?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? As mNGS becomes more common, we absolutely need strong safeguards around data privacy. This technology is revealing incredibly personal genetic information.
And on top of that, there's the question of access. We don't want this to become something that only certain people can benefit from.
Absolutely. Equitable access is crucial. If we believe that mNGS can truly revolutionize healthcare, it needs to be available to everyone. And that means tackling cost barriers and making sure healthcare providers know how to interpret the data.
Because it is complex.
It is. So we have our work cut out for us.
Definitely. But it's worth doing.
Yeah.
So for our listener out there, what would you say is the most important thing to remember from our deep dive into mNGS?
I think the takeaway is this. mNGS has the potential to do a lot of good in the world. But like any powerful tool, it all comes down to how we choose to use it. We need to have open and honest discussions about the ethics involved and a commitment to responsible development. And we have to make sure that everyone has access to this technology.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Uh,
And to our listener, I encourage you to keep learning about this. Keep asking questions and stay informed about how mNGS is evolving and impacting our world.
because this isn't just about science. It's about shaping a future where technology helps us live healthier and more fulfilling lives.
Well said. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into the world of mNGS. Until next time, stay curious and keep those brains engaged.